Okay, we are now recording. So welcome everyone to the December 10th iteration of the MicroProfile Live Hangout. The meeting minutes are in the chat. It is, well, as an attendee, please go in and add your name to the list. And it is everyone's shared responsibility to take notes, so please do so. We have a packed agenda in terms of what I think will generate conversation. So I'm going to be more diligent in managing the clock than I typically am, and I'm typically pretty diligent. So I guess let's. I'll share the screen here in a second. But the first agenda item is Edwin, MicroProfile 3.3 release planning. Take it away.
Okay, yes, I'm back just in time, I guess. My son got killed by Zuma or something. Anyway, I have to open the agenda. Sorry, I might have missed that you just introduced everybody to John. So,
MicroProfile release 3.3 planning. Go for it.
Yeah. So we didn't go over it already, but I guess everybody needs to at least inform us what the change will be. And then we will try to add it up as an item in the milestone to get a complete overview of what the 3.3 release will contain, of course. That's in a nutshell.
So has everyone begun creating a milestone?
So just I mean, I don't know if something changed there, but we didn't. We actually didn't have each component create a milestone. The milestone was done at the platform level, and then there were issues created for the components that were going into the release, so that then we would have something to track.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So we're not. So if I'm a developer,
each of those issues could link to a milestone in a particular spec.
Exactly.
It could, yes, but that's up to each component to decide that. But what we need at the platform level is to be able to track the whole release. So that would just be a milestone at the platform level. We create the issues for each of the components, and then what they want to do with those issues, that's up to them.
Yeah, right.
Well, so if I'm a developer, how do I know what's going feature-wise? How do I know what's going into a release?
I think we discussed this. So I think this is we discussed last time. Basically, the best practices is platform has a milestone, so can track all the like issues, and also each individual specs also have a milestone, so that everybody understand everybody understand is what issues go to that milestone release. I think that is the best practices.
John, can you mute everyone who is not talking? We have a background round.
Okay, I muted everybody, I think.
Yeah, it's quiet.
So yeah, I muted everybody in one fell swoop. So sorry, Emily. I wasn't sure if you were done.
Yeah, I think I'm done. I think is what I'm trying to say is it's best practice for every specification, including the platform spec, to have the milestone. I think we should push towards the standard, towards the process, etc.
I didn't go too deep into the research of milestones, but can an issue in a milestone at the platform level link to a milestone in a specification as an umbrella, maybe?
It's just a URL link, so it should be fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what we're trying to do is create a concrete overview of what's going to be in the release, right? So whether that's in a per specification level or in the platform or both.
So I think there's kind of two levels here. One is that we need to, as an umbrella, get better at managing the projects, which is what we started doing maybe a year ago, and then we kind of fell off, which is the whole milestones at the umbrella level and then issues for each spec that's going to do an update. Separate but somewhat related is that we should also push for the specs themselves to take a similar kind of approach of actually setting milestones, aligning work that's going to be part of the milestones and when that's targeted for and things like that. So there's two kind of levels, but they're kind of somewhat related.
Yeah, I prefer. Go for it, Kevin.
Well, I just want to have, the minutes here, or the agenda, indicates that each component spec needs to create a milestone. That's great if that's what each one wants to do, but we need one at the platform spec.
Yeah.
Because that's the one that we're driving the release with.
All right.
So there is already one, and I linked it in a minute.
Okay.
And I'm going to create individual issues for individual specs and assign them to project leads. They can link the milestones if there are any in the individual specs.
Wonderful.
I just haven't had time to do it yet.
Thanks, Martin.
Any other comments on this?
I think it's good. It's good. Because the specs that I'm involved, I think the most of the spec already use this milestone anyway. So make it formal is good.
Yep. That's my my hope.
So how are we going to define what the concrete list of issues is in the milestone? Because in the past, from my understanding, we were kind of tracking the contents of the release in this call, kind of. So we were going over the changes every time, investigating which spec was on track or not. So are we going to continue with that, or are we going to drive the contents of the release via GitHub and a milestone instead of this call?
I thought we were going to, sorry about this. I thought we discussed this maybe a month ago, and we said that we would use Git, but also the updates to this call to have it all into one compressed, consumable, less debt way of distribution. And I'm not sure why we are not clear of that. Do we have some way there? Do we document it, or how did we lose that that decision from a month ago?
Well, I don't think we've lost it. I mean, we still discuss releases here.
Yes.
What I was looking for is, if I want to know what's coming up in the next release, where do I go? Right now, I got to go basically try and figure it out myself across a whole suite of specs.
Yes.
What I'm hoping is, at the spec level, there's a milestone release that has a collection of issues for every spec, and then that's going to be updated for a release. And then at the platform level, it has a milestone that just links off to those issues, right? So then if I'm coming to MicroProfile in one place, we can point developers to one place for what's planned for a release. That's my hope.
Correct. Yes. I mean, does that answer your question? Since you are a trainee second time suffering the badges, you're wearing the badge of honor as a trainee.
Yeah, I'm doing my best with the rights I have. So John is helping out perfectly in that regard. Yeah, can we conclude that we will continue as we have done until now, and then make sure on the platform level that we try to get the issues that are in the release in a milestone? Well,
and let's drop the try. Let's just do it. The try doesn't work. That is like a meaningful dream. Just let's do it.
Yeah, you're right, of course. Yeah.
Of course.
No, you're totally right.
There is no try. There is only
No, there's only two.
I love it. I was thinking about it.
Yeah. So, okay, let's do it then. Let's see how it works out.
Anything else as it relates to the contents of the 3.3 release? Okay, actually, I'd like to get to the next one. The release date. Right now, darn it, I had it open in a different window. I think I was looking for a release date of February 18th. For this release, we do not need an Eclipse Foundation, an EML review. So in June we will, but for this release we do not, since it's a minor release. And it's within a year. So really all we need to do is have a date for the component specs to be finished, some time to create a candidate release at the spec level, and then release the spec. What I was targeting for releasing a spec originally was February 18th, and then everything falls back kind of a week behind that. So basically, that would mean component specs would need to be final with all their CQs and everything done, basically by early February. So Ken, I think, is looking for something, maybe making some modifications here. So
well, it was just a thought, because I know in the past we've generally tried to release a spec like the first, worst case, second week of a month. So if we were to hold that to standard, that would mean that really the specs needed to be released like second or third week of January. And I just got to thinking that because Code 1 is no longer October, we don't need that October release. So maybe it made sense to shift everything forward a month, so that the whole December, January PTO holiday time kind of doesn't impact the February release as much. Because I know in the past, the February release has often been quite light in terms of content, because everyone's been away.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just throwing an idea out there as to whether we think shifting by a month makes sense.
That's a plus one for me, and I have to say, marketing wise for the brand and the speakers that might go to DevNexus. DevNexus is the week of the 18th, so it's actually if we're able to match it to 4th, 11th, and have it completed by the 18th, that is fantastic. As a good level of what to talk about, and it spreads via blogs and sessions and tutorials and workshops what is new and the latest version that will include Jakarta 8.
So it sounds like it's actually a -1, because it sounded like you were still trying to have a release in February for DevNexus.
Yes, I am. Sorry, Ken. Did you say you wanted to have it in January? I'm like, not January, February.
March.
No. March.
Yeah.
So if we're going to do it in March, that will be, I'm thinking the sessions, and we're thinking, we should match the releases. And this is my bias on the biggest events. The biggest Java event in the United States is DevNexus today. And then we have Java LAN, and we also have JFocus in February, and we have in March a few other events. What do we want? What do we think is more important? And also those working in the APIs, can we do some work in March, February? My preference will be February, but we do not dictate. We can compromise, circle around on this.
I would support the proposal, Ken. Basically, we would have to get the release out by mid-November, the latest, because anything after that's Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then there's no more potential. There's also Devox, Belgium, which is kind of like in the November timeframe. So we should be buttoning up the release. So really, there isn't too much change in the schedule, because we would still be really needing to be winding down everything by the end of October and getting everything out the door first or second week in November. But I think the timing is fine.
So my concern is, what about the compatible implementations that we want to generate? If it gets pushed into November and there's any delay from that first week, trying to get you know, because of vacations and stuff, trying to get implementations out before the end of the year, that gets really difficult.
Yeah, okay, I see.
How does that impact things? I'm confused.
Well, because it's a lot of times very difficult to close the lid on your software and release it after the TCK is released.
It means you'd be trying to implement during Christmas.
I was going to say, I thought our process was that specs couldn't release until there was an implementation of the spec. And as long as there was that, then the spec would release. We're not holding the umbrella for a compatible implementation, are we?
No, Ken,
and that's the point, is that
this has nothing to do with our process. I'm looking at, you know, the compatible implementations, the Open Liberty, the Pyara, the Wildfly, you know, trying to get those implementations out in a suitable time frame after we release the specifications.
I think you made a supporting statement, Ken, where you're saying that we're not holding the platform release for compatible implementation, which by definition means that platforms could be starting or trying to finish up their final work just after the release.
However, in order to release the umbrella, you have to have a compatible implementation to try out first, right? So
well, we
yeah,
don't.
There's no requirements for that at the
Yeah, that was just discussed as not a requirement.
So I think it's at least you need to make sure the TCK can pass on the kind of one specific one runtime. Otherwise, I mean, what's
right
the point?
Now we don't do
otherwise,
that. All we're doing is single spec on a runtime. We're not testing the entirety of MicroProfile on anything first.
Yeah.
And that was discussed a few weeks ago around the idea of bringing in a platform TCK and all that kind of stuff. And it was decided that that was too much in terms of slowing things down.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm not wedded to this. It was just an attempt to try and not make it quite so crazy to get things done for a February spec release, giving us a bit more time. But if people are more concerned about having a compatible implementation within a month, then I don't care.
So I do have one question I have to follow up. John, what is it that is not required by Eclipse?
So do you remember how every, you know, the first, I think it was the first and third Wednesdays, the Eclipse Foundation, I think the EMO has to do a review of a spec, right? So they've reduced that now to once a year.
Okay, so
right?
that formal review is no longer necessary. Okay.
It's necessary at least once a year, and I think for major releases as well. I'll have to go back and double check that.
But John, you are talking about projects under incubation for Eclipse, right? Or or it applies to all the projects?
Yep, all the projects.
I missed that memo. To say.
Well, it's a wonderful thing. I mean, in terms of smoothing things out and letting us execute more quickly in every project.
Okay, so then that does help, like with well, even the February release. I mean, then it allows you to plan a little bit easier. But then for the June or July release that we're talking about, then we got to start backing it up again because we need to ensure that we pass one of those reviews by the Eclipse Foundation either on the first or third Wednesday before we can release.
Right.
Right? Okay.
So right now that would be the June release. That's where we're, the next June release, we're going to have to back things up a little bit. Yeah.
So then when you said that if we do a major release or once a year, well, okay, so I'm just trying to find out whether or not the one in November would even be doable. So let's say, you know, in July we're doing breaking changes. And so we plan for that and we get that all done. And we do the reviews with the Eclipse Foundation. So if we get to November and we decide we're going to have more breaking changes, does that require another review with the Eclipse Foundation, or because we just had one 3 or 4 months ago, we're covered?
I think that if we do, I have to go back and double check this. I think that if there's a major version, so if we do a minor version in June, let's say, right, there's a review, and then we do a major version in November, I think that would still require a review.
Oh, but only the major versions. And are we saying that
I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Okay, so let's refocus the conversation because it's super good. But are we going to agree to adjust what currently is the months where the 3 releases occur, or are we going to keep it as it is?
Well, that's what I'm still pursuing the data around this to figure out whether or not it's even doable. So like if we wanted to push to have this like the first week of a month, let's say the first week in November, then we would have to ensure that if the Eclipse reviews were necessary, we would have to do them on the first or third Wednesday in October in order to meet that first week in November.
To be honest, that's no different than we've worked in the past. It's just been for an October release, it was first or third Wednesday in September.
Right.
Frankly, right now, just pull it, John, and let's move on. This is taking too much time.
Yeah, well,
I'm not.
This is what we talk.
How dare you suggest something?
How dare you, Ken? I mean, come on.
That'll teach me.
Exactly. You learned your lesson.
So I'll tell you what. If you think that there's some optimizations that we can make here, start a Google group thread on it, and I'll reply there what the latest is on the Eclipse reviews.
Yeah, I think maybe even the more pragmatic way is like we all keep Ken's suggestions in mind, and we see how we actually operate this year. And if it shifts and drifts at all, then we just need to call a spade and say that's our schedule.
That's actually pretty doable, but I also agree with the thread. Are we happy with the outcome, especially Ken? You didn't throw the towel.
I don't care one way or the other.
No, I think it was a good suggestion.
Okay, so are we done with this topic? John and Kevin and David, before we go into the proposals, I need at least 5 minutes because I pulled the Chris, the master, the Eclipse Infra Master into this call to discuss the newest infra that affects the 350 projects under Eclipse. He's in this call, and I need 5 minutes. He's in this call, and his time is valuable as all our times, but he cannot stay for the entire hour. So, So can we be conscious of this time? And can we go to that topic? Is this okay?
Yeah, we do have to kind of keep it short because I don't know how long the next topic is going to take.
5 minutes because we will write a blog.
That's fine.
Okay, so you're here.
Yes.
Thank you for joining first. And John, can you go down and open the link? This is about the bug, and this is about a bug that is 4 years and 8 months old. And please, on it. This is your 5 minutes to answer QA.
Is it this one here? Which one?
This one, yeah, we have a draft blog, but you can open the bug that will explain and allow Chris to.
Sure. Do you want me to share my screen or?
Yeah, you know what? Share your screen better. John, can you let Chris on it?
Yeah. I think you can just take over. I'll just stop sharing, I guess.
Yeah, you'll need to stop sharing.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Amelia, for inviting me. I won't take too much time, but just wanted to give a heads up that I guess the community created an issue around 2015 about allowing projects to kind of create a list of contributors on their project, and basically this allows kind of committers to assign bugs to folks that might not have commit rights to a project on GitHub. So, for example, if you have some folks that you have an issue and you have some folks that that would be perfect for resolving that problem, you can now add them as a contributor on your project. And our new sync script will basically every 2 hours, I think it will sync up with GitHub. So add everybody that's been added to the contributor team for your project, and from there you should be able to kind of assign these issues to them.
Chris, you're not sharing yet, though, actually.
Okay, give me a second here. Should be sharing now. Can you?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I already loaded up so folks that are committers should have access to this edit project on the Eclipse PMI. And basically, to manage your list of contributors, you would go to this page, open up the source code and issue Bugzilla tab, and you have a list of, well, this is where you would want to add your contributors here. And then just update your page here by saving this form. And like I said, after 2 hours, we'll sync up with GitHub. It's very important for folks that are listed as contributors to let us know what's their GitHub ID. Without that, we cannot sync up with GitHub. We cannot send you an invite to join the contributor team. So this is done on the Edit My Profile page, and this is kind of where you want to input that information. If you're already a committer, you've probably already done that. So feel free to help or like indicate to people that they should go here. And then from there, yes, you should be able to add contributors. So this project kind of sparked kind of an audit. So right now we're doing an audit of all of our permissions and settings on GitHub because things were a bit out of sync across our different organizations. We had some organization that had access to create teams, which led to eventually allowing people to have commit rights on projects they should not have access to. So we've recently disabled that. But we're currently looking at kind of standardizing all our settings across all of our orgs on GitHub. And then from there, we will hopefully make some enhancements to this feature. One thing that I've been discussing with the committers from the TIA project is the ability for projects to create their own custom team. Which basically allows them to basically, if there is an issue created on a certain folder, for example, then we already have a set group of people that will be automatically assigned to that issue. So I'm not, so right now, I guess our audit will kind of allow us to make decision on how we're going to implement this, but this is kind of where we're going with this in the future, hopefully in Q1. Because I know some of you guys are leveraging these features in GitHub that kind of allow to automatically assign people to issues. So we're kind of listening, and hopefully we'll be able to roll this out in the new year.
So Chris, thank you so much. We, MicroProfile project, will be one of your testers. We're happy to do so. We have already stated in the tickets, and you and I will. I wonder if we can do a demo, and because we're going to share a blog, so maybe a 30 seconds demo where you can show how the committer can start ownership of this. And clearly today we don't have as much time as we would another time, but the blog will push it by next week, and Chris and I will work on it. Emily, you're welcome to review it when it's completed to see that if we missed anything. But this is coming. This is so important to us because there shouldn't be a differentiation between a contributor and a committer. And I think the Eclipse infra team via, Chris and everyone that we have worked with have been amazing. It's the most fun in the infra side. So I want to thank openly to you and your team, Chris. You guys are awesome.
We're glad to help. And just a little plug. So this sync script is on GitHub under our Eclipse Foundation organization. So if you're interested in seeing how we're doing this, if you're interested in contributing some code, or if you want to help out, you're more than welcome.
This is Emily. I have a quick question, Chris. Yep. So, in MicroProfile, whoever contributes to this any spec and etc., their name is automatically listed. Who's involved? Why do we need to add their email again in the Eclipse kind of the project in the MicroProfile project to add them as a contributor again?
So, for example, there's an issue here, right? So if you want to be able to assign this issue to, you know, somebody, I guess, on your team, well, they need to be added as a contributor. Otherwise, you don't have them. You won't be able to select them. So committers are not able to use them.
So
And
basically,
I apologize. I'm going
my
to interrupt here. 35 after the hour, we're going to switch topics. So just a heads up. This is me being diligent with our clock. Thanks. Keep going.
So basically, I'm thinking, is that possible to automate this? Basically, is you can find all the contributor in MicroProfile. Is that possible to have that list automatically populated?
I mean, we can discuss. I'm a bit concerned of spamming people that might not want to be, you know, invited to the team. I think this is the approach we're taking, is that obviously you should know these contributors. You should know that they want to be involved and they want to be assigned to issues. So
Yes.
So this is kind of the approach we're taking right now.
And also we discussed that in the bug. There were the options to do it it's disciplined, and then we decided that only the committers, the workers with the contributors, will be the ones assigned to choose who to add based on what we know. And if someone leaves the project and say, hey, I'm busy and I don't want to be spam or anything, we automatically update it. This is a way to police the project itself directly via who is working actively. So there is no other way to make this scalable at this time.
Yeah, I could, like, just bringing up the question, I mean, an idea I could see us and as an enhancement, giving the ability to folks to kind of tell us that they want to become a contributor, so that they kind of have let's say on the project page, you can have a button there that they could kind of click on and kind of notify project committers, hey, I'd like to be a contributor on a project. You guys would sign off, and then we would sync that up. So I could see something like that in the future. But for now, that's the approach we took.
Feature request, the ability to add a webhook via this little interface that you have. That's awesome, by the way. Great initiative, because those settings, obviously you have to lock them down for very obvious reasons, but I just love how you're always continuously trying to make things more open, even if you have to make your own interface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of a, we needed to create our own interfaces into this and kind of realize that if you create teams under, let's say, the committer team, then everybody under that has commit access. So we really want to be we need to be kind of a bit more in control and so we're building these interface so that you guys have these features, but also kind of making sure that, you know, things are done in a more controlled way, I guess. So yeah, feel free to, if anybody has some feature requests, I invite you to go to the GitHub projects that I linked earlier. I'll link it in the chat, and open issues. We'll be looking at new features in Q1. Right now, we're just focusing on the audit, focusing on making sure everything is working well and nobody's losing access. Yeah, that's where we're at.
So please, you and I are going to work on that blog this week and next week, like super soft, like super relaxed.
Right, we got to wrap up.
Sorry.
Thank you so much.
I gave an extra minute. Yes, thank you very much. And I apologize. It just turned out to be a rough meeting to join. Yeah, given our agenda.
Yeah, Chris, you and I will talk. Yeah, thank you, Chris, for joining.
Yes, thank you very much.
Really appreciate it.
Okay, sorry, I'm the cracking the whip here on the clock. Okay, so this next one is going to be an interesting topic, I think. One of the things that we've known for a while that we're going to have to do is create was for MicroProfile to belong to a working group. There's IP
to adopt the EFSP.
Well, to adopt the EFSP, but also to belong to a working group. These are kind of gaps that are being required by the Eclipse Foundation, especially around the IP flow, to make sure that everyone that implements MicroProfile and uses MicroProfile is, covered by patents and such. So what that means is that we have to close that gap. So what we've done is this is in the working, sorry, this is in the sandbox. Have you actually published this yet, Kevin? I'm looking at the pull request.
No, I have not. I was still waiting for a review from David.
Yeah, I was looking at that before, and I saw some comments, and you know, do we want to take? Well, I don't want to derail. Keep going, but perhaps we use the PR to have some initial discussion.
You know what? Before you guys start, because not everyone should know, Kevin and John have been really good at saying we are meeting, we're talking about this, but we should just give a background of the amount of work that has been into this with many hours of a few of you, and it needs to be stated by someone that is not me. Can we do that? Please.
Well, to be clear, we've been working on this, we being, so far, David, myself, Kevin, and Scott Stark, who's also on the call. But the idea wasn't to come up with a solution. It was to come up with a proposal because we wanted heavy community involvement and feedback.
Right.
So it's a place to start the discussion. Now, what we do have, so what we've worked on, the aforementioned folks, has been a MicroProfile working group proposal. And I'll show these briefly here in a second, but if you can see on the screen, a MicroProfile working, David?
Yeah, maybe before we do that, we should just take questions if people understand the legal gap. So when we established Jakarta, we made a specification process. It does allow for patent protection. Patents can be an issue. I mean, obviously we're seeing, Google and Oracle lawsuits that are all about patents. And so it is a major concern, and these were addressed in the Jakarta EU specification process, and then there's a Eclipse specification process made. So it became obvious we needed to have MicroProfile, which delivers specifications, do that under some derivative of the Eclipse Foundation specification process. So does anybody have any questions on that and why it's necessary?
And just a little bit of background there too, David. I don't know how many months ago, but Mike Milinkovich came to one of our Google Hangouts and explained some of this, issue and the problem that eventually we would have to resolve. And it's just been kind of stewing in the background as we continue to look at this. And it kind of came to a head at Code 1. And that's when, the people that were at Code 1 that were talking about this situation, that's when we decided, okay, we got to get something more formal for the proposals.
Right. And I would add that I completely agree with the need for there to be some more formal legal process around the way we produce specifications, because it does zero good for us to go through unbelievable lengths on the Jakarta side to protect everybody and then do nothing on the MicroProfile side of the fence.
Right.
It's not balanced. So it's a problem we have to solve as a community. And then the question is, how do we go ahead and do that?
Okay, so any questions on kind of the background?
Yeah, legal and what it means and
any questions, because a lot of this several of us have been working the Jakarta EE side for months, and so a lot of it is kind of like second nature. This may be brand new to a lot of people on the call, so feel free to ask any questions.
Yeah, we need someone to break the silence. Edwin.
Or it could be, it's legal, my eyes glaze over.
Yeah, exactly.
I was present at the times that this was explained, so I'm pretty up to date with this.
You know what? Let me throw someone on the bus. Carlos, you're becoming a new MicroProfiler. What do you think? What do you want to do here? We have 19 brains here, and being quiet is not an option. What's going on?
Thank you, Amelia. So basically, I don't have any background about the legal issues that can be. So this is something that is new for me. It will be great. I heard the background that you explained, but still there are some gaps that I don't have the context about that. And feel free to ping me some links as well. I'll read about it.
Well, let me give you let me paint a picture of how the Eclipse specification process helps patent protection. So when you are a company and you sign up using the Eclipse contributor agreement, you basically say, you can use all my patents. But you don't say which ones, okay? And so when we go creating specifications, we need companies on record formally as saying, I approve you using these ideas. And so when we create scenarios where companies are required to vote +1, that vote +1 leaves a legal trail we can use to defend ourselves if they come back and say, you didn't have permission to use that patent. I didn't mean that one. Because it's obviously too legally broad to say you use all of our patents. And so we need some way to kind of build up the legal protection that get them on formal record having said, yes, those specific ideas are fine with us. And so when a specification is made and built by all these big companies, and we need some way for them to acknowledge that the ideas, which patents are about ideas, patents are not about code, right? Patents are about concepts, that the concepts in that specification, we approve them to be released as part of that specification. And that diminishes their ability to sue over those ideas. The open source license doesn't necessarily protect you against all those scenarios. Because that's protecting code and that's IP. And there's a really, there's between IP and patent is IP is things you've built and actually coded, but somebody else is allowed to make a different implementation of that idea using their own code. Patent says you can't make another implementation of that using your own code because I own the idea. And so that's the difference between a patent and an IP. And so when we release a specification that has had all the major vendors say, we like this specification, none of them really have much grounds to sue for IP or for patents. They've already signed something that lays that legal framework, but getting them on a series of votes further confirming really helps our ability to protect ourselves. And we don't have that in MicroProfile right now.
That makes sense. And I have a following question. So I saw in some of the MicroProfiles emails that we are asking for votes. Is that related to that?
We would need to have some sort of votes and process in there to have a functioning specification process, because if companies are not on record as officially saying we as a company like this specification, we don't have anything on record that we can use to protect ourselves if they turn around and try and sue.
And let's be clear, we're not saying that someone will, yeah, and let's be clear, it's not that we expect, we expect the community to be responsible users of open source, and every company that decides to adopt MicroProfile to own it. However, we need something to protect, open source is free to use. The user can decide whatever the hell they want to use. However, the IP, as waters are changing, we need to come up with something new. And there is a proposal. This is important. It's bothersome because we need to do so, even though there is no problem. And it needs to be stated. There is no current problem of being sued at the moment. I doubt that it will happen in the future.
There is. Hold on. You're just undoing everything that I said.
Sorry. No.
Okay.
Explain. Clarify.
All right. So do people see the need for us to get basically companies on the record as saying we approve of this specification, and therefore their ability to sue us over patent infringement is diminished?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I have a small question.
Sure.
I know there's two proposals. At the moment, I'm joined over phone, so I haven't been able to click on the proposal. Is there anywhere you list the cons and pros, like for compare these two proposals? I know I had chatted with Kevin, and there's a cons and pros.
We haven't talked about the proposals at all, but just to make sure everyone understands truly what has to be accomplished, I think that's the most important thing. And then we, so if there are no questions, we can move on to that. phase of it. But Carlos, did that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Does that
Yes.
give you a much more clear perspective of what it means to have a patent versus copyright, and why we need the patents and things like that? Because we don't want to find ourselves in a Google v, Oracle situation. So
Yeah, thank you.
So to answer your
I'm
other question, Carlos, sorry, to answer your other question, Carlos, I think the plus ones you might be thinking of could be committers, committers to the projects. We do vote on committers. So that is a formal process that's already in place for the Eclipse Foundation. So just an FYI on that. That might be what you're thinking of.
Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Yep. Amelia? Not Amelia, I apologize. Emily.
Yeah, it's so I'm wondering what David said is quite valuable. I mean, for anyone like look at a proposal, match want to have
we got 10 minutes left, so let's talk about the proposal.
So basically, what I'm trying to say is between the introduction and proposal, maybe have a section Y, and just put a couple like statements there, or
that's already there.
Just
that's already there. So let's get
the first.
Yep. So we're gonna get there, Emily. You just got a little bit of a cart before the horse there, but now I think we're ready for the cart. So we have two proposals. That doesn't mean that others can't contribute proposals as well, and that's listed kind of in this page that you see for those that are see the desktop. There's two proposals. One is the MicroProfile working group proposal, and this was worked on by the aforementioned folks. That basically defines a standalone working group for MicroProfile. Right, so it would be a peer working group, for example, to all the other working groups within the Eclipse Foundation, including Jakarta EE. The second proposal is a proposal from the Eclipse Foundation itself that proposes that there be a single working group. The Cloud Native for Java working group is a proposal, and within that working group there will be a single steering committee that directs the working group, but within that working group there will be two peer projects, I guess, Jakarta EE and MicroProfile. So I don't know if Scott or maybe Kevin want to take a shot if we want to click on either one of these to kind of go down to the next level of detail. Or I could do it. I mean, just trying to spread it around.
Yeah, I think it probably would be good to click on each one. Not that we're going to walk through it, but
right.
Some of Emily's comments about, well, it would be nice to know, just the top level view of it, and we can show that there is motivational statements at the beginning of each of the proposals, and then there's the detail below it. So I think it kind of covers what you were looking for, Emily. The one thing that we do not have yet is a chart that would show pros and cons. Now, if someone wants to take an independent view of the two proposals and come up with that would be great. But I don't think it's on any of our work plates at the moment.
Well, the only thing I want to add is to make sure that the proposals do look like they're presenting pros and cons, but those are obviously the biased viewpoint. So, I mean, I had a comment on this pull request that so for example, the Eclipse Foundation proposal is not endorsed by Red Hat, for example. It is their view of why things should be done from that perspective. That's the only issue that I had with the current presentation of this. That's their viewpoint. I will debate some of the points in there, and will have to be the point of the conversation in the open as to whether or not those are valid. And it's also up to the community to have the same questions with respect to the MicroProfile working group proposal. those are obviously statements of belief from those 4 groups of entities at this point in time. So those are all subject to interpretation. I think we will have to come up with pros and cons as ourselves as a community.
Mm-hmm. Scott, you just brought something that is important. I haven't seen the PR because it's not released yet. I'm playing ball with everyone else. When we see the proposals there, you need to say drafted, drafted. The first one is to say drafted by, and it lists the individuals. And the second one needs to say drafted by Eclipse, not endorsed by community.
Let's just do, I want to make sure everyone feels that the proposals are represented fairly, right? So,
correct.
One proposal is for a single working group that would include Jakarta EE and MicroProfile and potentially other initiatives in the future. So anything kind of cloud native might go under this cloud native working group. And so that would be effectively one budget that would be shared by both Jakarta EE, MicroProfile, and other cloud native initiatives. It would have the advantages of being, potentially low overhead of process, everybody at the table for all initiatives, so on. Then there's the alternate perspective, which is a smaller, more focused working group for MicroProfile specifically, and it would involve, more paperwork for people who wanted to join both, but would have other benefits, such as being, entirely focused on MicroProfile with no shared focus. So any dollars of budget that are there would be directed directly towards MicroProfile. And perhaps some ability to protect ourselves from it getting, MicroProfile kind of getting blended with other initiatives that its distinctive natures are not retained, right? So a statement made in that is when we started MicroProfile, it was with the knowledge that the JCP existed and wasn't awful. So we started MicroProfile as a separate initiative on purpose. And so for us to put it in is not what we were intending to do when we made it in the first place. So there is some bias for a separate initiative, even though there might be additional paperwork involved. So people can take a look at them and give some thoughts. Both sides have merit, and so go ahead and take a look. And if people have questions on just the high level aspect, I don't know if we have anybody here. I don't know who we have from the Eclipse Foundation here that might want to answer questions about the proposal. I think it's fair to give them some time to answer any questions or maybe talk about.
Answering
well,
questions.
We only have. I apologize for interrupting. We only have 4 minutes. So one topic that we need to discuss is where we're going to have the conversation, right? So hopefully we'll have this PR published in today. Anyone can go look at the PR today. It's public, right? But just
I suggest we merge it. I had made the suggestion to maybe use the PR as a place to have a conversation. But as you started at the beginning of the conversation, John, other people are welcome to submit proposals. And if all the conversation is having on this one PR, that doesn't enable that. So I want to just take that off the table. We should just go ahead and merge it.
So I have one question, John. I wonder if we should start a new thread on our Google group specific to the discussion of the proposals.
Yes.
I was going to do that as well. I was just waiting for the final push.
Working group as the title, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
We can say 2020 working group, potential proposals for working group.
Just working group.
Yeah, it'll be working group.
Yeah,
let's keep it simple.
Yeah, working group. No questions right now because we haven't even seen this. I want to be super honest on this. We need, there are no deadlines given to this community. We will consume this, and via the PRs, I think is a really good way to trace the voices of everyone who have voice and wants to share it. There's no entitlement. And it's just, let's be honest. Let's be vigilant of what is potentially the pros and cons. That is super important. And let's keep in mind that there are no hard choices or questions, and there is no loyalty to anything. It needs to be very, very specific here.
I want to state that there are, they're not necessarily like this has to happen and be done by next week kind of deadlines, but we can't take 6 months either. So we do need to be efficient about the conversation.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to take this a step further, in that this has been a gap that has been concerning the Eclipse Foundation for a while. So we do want to put, a time frame on it, not necessarily a date. But I think if we can get something, within, between 30 and 60 days, kind of nailed down, that would be nice.
I think it's very low likelihood we'll get it wrapped up in any useful conversation in December, but
yeah.
But I think we should allow ourselves at least January to have some great conversation.
Yep.
But if we're still having great conversation in March, that's not really optimal.
Yeah, I was thinking
Right.
February, if we can mark it February 28th for brainstorming and looking for feedback, that is a whole quarter, like a whole month, not in the holidays. February, especially, that is a short month. It will capture our intent of the work done, not only by Eclipse, but also by the four of you that worked on this thing that took hours of your time and brains to provide some Vaseline of what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say February 28th, we can add it to the calendar. Soft deadline and push forward. Expect that the December will be no hard, decisions. It's just accumulating data and pushing anyone that is not related. And moving on the part side, as soon as this is published, we will run it every week via media to bring attention to it. Just a partial side of the push that we will do in our side. And this means MicroProfile media push.
Yep. And I apologize, I'm going to interrupt here again. I think another important point is that this is not like a final product that we're working on. It's a proposal with a bunch of bullets. This will have to be translated into an official working group document, which will also take time. And then everyone will have to kind of take a look at the verbiage and stuff. There's things in here that we don't cover in detail, like the budget is not necessarily defined here. We know we need one. As well as the specification process, which is something we're also working on, right? A specification process proposal. That's not here yet. That hopefully will be coming relatively shortly. We'll see what we can do there, with the holidays in the way. So it's not fully complete yet, as well. So last wrap up comments.
Yeah, the goal was to get enough shape so people had something to discuss, and people didn't feel like all the decisions were made. There was a lot of care to make sure that people felt like they had the ability to have an opinion. So please do leverage that and have an opinion.
From my side, happy holidays to everyone that joined today, because I always enjoy seeing your faces or hearing your voices. Wow.
All right, awesome. Yeah, happy holidays to everybody. This is the last meeting this calendar year. So we'll see you next year. Same bat time, same bat channel at the start of the year.
And John,
Yep.
Yeah, John. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Don't forget to tweet the video so that we can retweet it, because this call was super important.
Okay.
All right.
Good. Yep.
Happy holidays, everyone. See you next year.
Everyone. Hope to see you next year.
Ciao.
So cute.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, Bruno.
Oh, John.